title, Three Teenagers Disappeared. In Spain, specifically in the city of Alcácer, three teenage girls decided to go to a nightclub, not knowing that this decision was made logically by them: Antonia 15 years old, Maria 14 years old, and Miriam 15 years old. On November 1, 1992, they learned that their parents were going to a party in a nightclub in their town. Miriam's father was supposed to drive them, but he had a strong fever and was unable to get out of bed, so the girls decided that they would walk and ride with anyone they encountered. Indeed, this is what happened in the beginning. Someone, he and his wife, arrived to a place near the club, and then the girls continued walking on their way. They were met by one of their friends, who told them they were going to the club. They said no. And other sources said that they did not speak to him, but greeted him from afar. The day passed and the second day came, but the girls did not return to their homes. Then they asked their friends and discovered that the girls had not gone to the party or reached the club, and then they were sure that they were missing. The police began to investigate all their friends, and their friend who saw them testified and said that they were originally near the club, but what happened that made them not enter? They completed questioning the residents of the two areas and followed the path of and they searched the neighboring places of farms and forests, but there was no trace. And after the story of the disappearance of the three teenage girls spread, a woman named Maria went to the police and said that on the day the girls disappeared, she saw girls riding in a white car, and there were two men in the car, and the car drove off. And then the search expanded throughout the country and even neighboring countries' nightclub. More than 2 months passed, and they were still searching, and the girls were still missing, and they even referred the case to Interpol. Their families appeared on many channels appealing to people or anyone who saw them to communicate with them, but to no avail. At the end of January of 1993, there were two people with a bee farm and they were going to the farm, and they stopped a little on the road until they smoked, and one of them glimpsed something shining from afar, and when he approached it, he turned back in shock and pointed to his owner, and when the second person approached, he glimpsed a watch and buried human hands. He took a stick and started digging next to the hand and made sure that there was a body buried here, and at length he informed the police. When the police arrived and dug the place, they discovered 3 bodies buried in a hole, and at the beginning of decomposition they were 2 corpses, their heads cut off and their hands tied to the back, and they found rubbish and papers in the pit. And after they took the bodies to the forensic medicine department, they proved that the bodies were the 3 missing teenage girls, and they informed their families of the shocking news. They were 2 corpses, their heads cut off and their hands tied to the back, and they found rubbish and papers in the pit. And after they took the bodies to the forensic medicine department, they proved that the bodies were the 3 missing teenage girls, and they informed their families of the shocking news. They were 2 corpses, their heads cut off and their hands tied to the back, and they found rubbish and papers in the pit. And after they took the bodies to the forensic medicine department, they proved that the bodies were the 3 missing teenage girls, and they informed their families of the shocking news. Had bruises and fractures, and even some of their body parts were removed in a brutal way, and the 3 girls were cut off by a bullet behind the head, through the rubbish they found in the hole and the papers. They were able to reach a person named Enrique. Antonio. Is Antonio the actor? After researching Antonio's past, they discovered that 2 months before the disappearance of the girls, he was in prison on charges of kidnapping his girlfriend and tying her to a pole, and he began to abuse and beat her for 25 hours because she stole a bag full of brain drugs that he was going to sell. Miguel was an alcoholic, drug addict and car thief. At first, the police arrested Miguel and interrogated him. He told them the type of car he was driving, and it had the same specifications as the car that Maria said about. Then he admitted that he stole the car and gave it to Antonio's owner. When they asked him about Antonio, he said that he had not met him for a long time, and after they asked him where he was on the day of the crime, he said he was imprisoned, but then they discovered that he was a liar. They locked him up and left him without eating or drinking, and then he confessed and said that the girls rode with him of their own free will and Antonio was with him in the car. After that he went with one of them and Antonio went with the remaining 2 girls and said that everything that happened between them was with their consent. but it is not reasonable that the girls agree to be raped in a brutal way to the point of degrading tack in their members. The important thing, after that, he said that he killed the girl who was with him, and Antonio killed the 2 girls who were with him, but after he confessed and finished and brought him to the court, he said that I originally confessed because the police tortured me, but they imprisoned him without trial or judgment for Antonio. After the police attacked the house, he escaped through the 4th floor window and people began to submit complaints, someone saying that he changed his appearance, someone saying that he changed the color of his hair, and so on, and then he fled to Portugal and from Portugal to Ireland, and there they found him in a ship and arrested him, but someone helped him in the ship and he escaped from them and jumped into the sea and they circled on him in the sea a lot, but they did not find him. Trace may have died and someone could have saved him, but for now he is missing. There are things that annoyed the families of the victims and the public opinion, and made them suspect that the perpetrator might be a religious sect or big personalities, which are, 1. A father works with a private investigator in order to get real gambling, but they paid them a fine. But they are not the actors. When they found the corpses in the pit, there were no clear pictures of them, it could be a picture alone only, and the running scene is supposed to be depicted in all its details. With 1 bag years have passed and the case is still unresolved. It is true that Miguel is in prison, but there is no official suspect because he did not confess and deny, and Egypt insisted that he was innocent. In 2002, after the development of the DNA test, they discovered that there was a carpet in it that was present at the crime scene, and no one examined it. After the examination, they found it as poetry. Others said that neither his hair was identical to their sources. She said that 3 hairs were identical to Miguel's hair and 12 of his hair were identical to any one of them in sources, and it is said that a clear video appeared in which Miriam was torturing her, and the ones who tortured her were 4 men, Mo2, and in 2013 Miguel was released from prison after he did not spend 21 years in it, and so far the case has not been resolved. And this was the end of our story. Give me your opinion on the story.